Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. The first image, when I look at the sort of the metadata or whatever, it says it's you made it with a Leica. Is that a Leica?
The photo?
Yeah, the photo of the painting.
I have a Leica. It's not the fancy ones made in Germany. I think it's made in Japan, which still is good. Sounds pretty good to me.
Of course.
But I like the camera, although it's an old camera. What I like is it keeps the line pretty straight, which is an important point when you have to take a photo of a painting because it tends to go in all directions.
Of course.
And the colors are pretty true. Sometimes some of the other brands, they would, push a little bit the colors too much. So I prefer to have something very true. And then if I have to tweak it, I will tweak it in Photoshop later.
A beautiful entrance to or introduction to the actual image. So I love talking about the images.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's it looks like mixed media. So painting as well as collage, or no?
Yeah, it's a total mixed media in the sense that first of all, I specialize, if you want to use that word, in cityscapes and landscapes. So I wouldn't paint people or other things or abstract. Yes, it's a true mixed media in the sense that I use a little bit of everything. Like mainly the base is acrylic. I do use a little bit of oil, although, because we're here in Hong Kong, it's very humid. The oil will never dry. Fully, so, you can touch it a month later, go to the sofa and find, a spot or something. So it's more tricky, the oil, but I've used it in the past. I do a lot of collage. So I collage cutouts from magazine and then, glue them into the painting. I use inks. I use wax pastels or different type of pens and things. So a bit of everything.
So somebody who's never been to Hong Kong, you came to Hong Kong what year?
I came in the very, very end of 2005. Let's call it 2006.
Okay.
It was this end.
Right.
2 days before he ended.
Now, so in this particular case, this is what I see. Okay. Yeah. So first of all, I love your training or whatever has really given you a sensibility of color. So you know how to use color. So when somebody looking at this, it's essentially a play of blues and blacks and whites. And there's a bit of other color, but fundamentally you're looking at a mash of Hong Kong Island with a skyline. And I could see, if you like to do cityscapes, why Hong Kong would be a great source of inspiration.
Yes.
So you essentially at the bottom fifth, you've got roughly the hint of the Hong Kong harbor, so the blue of the water, and you've got some boats. And then you've got the kind of very flat looking tall buildings from the Bank of China Tower to all this stuff. And then behind, in almost black, you've got the hills of Hong Kong with trees. And you have some messages. So you've got the planes in the sky. You've got it's all in the art, sort of in almost like as a cloud. You also have other text, some Chinese characters, mostly non-Chinese. So before coming to Hong Kong, did you do these cityscapes or?
I did. Although if I showed you, they would look a little bit different.
Oh,
so before coming to Hong Kong, I was based in London, and I did paint cityscapes of London. But I think they were more. I was based in South London, which had a special character. I was more focusing on some of the characters populating the area, even animals, foxes. There's a lot of foxes in South London. Here, obviously, in Hong Kong, this kind of skyline is more prominent. It's in your face. You see, it's not like London, which is a very low height city, very spread out. So of course this was very obvious, and I think the style changed a little bit here when I came to Hong Kong, for sure.
So take us back into your process of why painting.
Why? I should mention that by training I'm an architect. So maybe the obsession that you see with buildings and city comes from my profession. I work as an architect in London and here for many years until February 2017 when I decided to dedicate myself entirely to art. So, a lot of my working career, if you want, it was, about designing or looking at building.
Where did you study architecture?
I studied in Milan
and
a little bit in London.
Okay. So many questions. I love this stuff because it's a very strange conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like bring somebody into your house and say, okay, let's talk about your aesthetic. Let's talk about what brought you to here. Yeah. And so you trained as an architect.
Yeah.
Now, Hong Kong being Hong Kong, it's the Jerusalem of architecture in a way. Like, you know what I mean?
It is.
Okay. So when I hear people talk about the Italian mindset towards art, I kind of feel like it's a cage. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's like in Israel. In Israel, you can't make art and not reference the religiosity of the place, right?
Okay.
It's just religion is everywhere. Even if you're an atheist, it's like you're stuck in that cage, right?
Yeah.
Italy, you've got baked into the whole culture is the whole history of artistic development, of philosophical development, of the whole history is just kind of on top of you. And maybe not a cage, more like a leash. Like you can't escape it.
Maybe that's why I decided to get out.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then when you go from Italy to London, which has a rich history as well, and you're studying architecture with folk, which is, a very kind of applied art. But then you come to Hong Kong, which is a lot more like, given my description of being in a cage and then a leash, and then coming to Hong Kong as an architect, what happened to your brain when you kind of saw this?
Well, of course, I guess it happened what everyone has experienced, every one of us from outsiders. And there's an overwhelming sensation for sure, because, you have the energy of the city, which is everywhere, the noises, the sounds. You got these massive buildings, beautiful buildings. You have the culture of the place, different cultures all together. And the way that I like to encapsulate a little bit, I think my main message, other than energy, vibrancy, is, the beauty, for me, the beauty of Hong Kong is a combination of the man-made beauty marrying the nature-made beauty, because there are not many places in the world where you have these amazing buildings and you have water, hills, crazy hills in the background. How many places like this? Maybe Rio de Janeiro, but the buildings wouldn't be as good as in Hong Kong, or I don't know. I don't even know.
Well,
I don't even know.
We're a kilometer away from my office. And at night, sometimes I'll meet friends and we go into the hillsides in this painting. Yeah. And we go catch cobras and Burmese pythons and see porcupine, and it's literally 500 meters above, wild boar, like as you say, it's amazing.
Yeah. What about the cobras? I'm hoping not to meet any. I met wild boars. Okay. I'm not so excited about meeting cobras.
You have to go look. They're afraid of you. They're terrified of you, right? You have to go looking for them. Yeah. Hong Kong has more than, I think, 50 or around 50 species of snakes, and some very, very dangerous ones.
This is a piece of information I was about to know before this conversation.
No, but look, it's part of the I think anybody who's been out here is going to be dazzled by it. Yeah. So do you feel like it's detached from a certain kind of traditional anchor, in the way like in Italy, if you're going to do something really crazy, people are going to look at you like, hey, wait a second, how does this fit into the historical? Do you think am I making that up, or?
I don't know. To be honest, I am not super familiar with the artistic scene right now in Italy. So I'm sure there are people doing things, out there, or, there would be a little bit of a weight, like you say, from religion and culture. But I'm sure there are more, free thinkers nowadays.
So Hong Kong is really kind of, so when I got here in 2003, I had a real frustration with how few channels and people there were to talk art and to talk aesthetics. Because then when people started realizing there's money in art, and in Hong Kong it's all about, it's about money. Yeah. that opened up a lot of the conversations
Yeah.
or so you made the transition into being a full-time artist.
Yeah.
4 years ago, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, 4 years ago. So I don't want to say how easy has it been or hard has it been. You don't look like you're hurting, but
well, you touched upon an important point. There was a moment in which things changed a little bit. Traditionally, Hong Kong is a finance-based place, and I think in 2008 something changed a little bit because there was the recession. So I think the city was looking to find ways to diversify a little bit. You wouldn't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Sure.
So bringing in art, bringing in music, other things gives you a little bit more flexibility to be prepared for another crisis. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And people realize there is money in art. In fact, they put a lot of money into Art Basel. It's not a coincidence that Art Basel, Art Central came about after the crash, the financial crash. Before there was an Hong Kong fair, but it was a much smaller affair.
Yeah.
So of course there was a little bit more interest in, as an artist, or at least a creative mind, I like that because coming from London, the first years here, the part that I loved Hong Kong, but the part that I didn't like, I felt it was a little bit dry when it came to art, music. It was very, straightforward money and making money. After that, things changed. The conversation changed, and Hong Kong started to having a different appeal. It became more interesting to me. So there was one thing. And I also started doing collaborations that maybe we can talk later in the next image with schools. So I realized maybe more opportunities could open up for me. And I'd been working as an architect here for the same company for a long time. And towards the end, I kind of lost a little bit of interest in the final year or 2 years because most of the jobs happened to be in China at the time.
Yeah.
So suddenly all the conversation is in Chinese.
Yeah.
And I found myself doing and playing more important roles years before and just basically drafting things and not even talking to anyone after. So it felt like my career was going backwards rather than while other things were happening in the art department. And I thought maybe this is the right time to, dive in and see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so this particular image is, how long ago did you make this piece?
I need to check. I think it's a 2018, if I'm right. I put it for two reasons, these paintings.
Yeah.
First off, thank you about what you said about the colors. Actually, I have the complete other idea. I don't think I can master colors. This is a good example in which I kept the palette very limited.
Right.
But every time I have the feeling I'm using too many colors.
Right.
So thank you, but I'm not sure. I'm still learning.
But this is just it's just a snapshot, right? Like we're just meeting. I haven't seen. There's a painting behind me. I don't know if you made these, but
I made those too.
Okay.
But when you see that one is quite contained when it comes to colors. other paintings are much more colorful. I'm thinking, should I cut down a little bit?
No, this is great. Look. There's no should. I love it. Let's move on to the next one.
But I wanted to tell you a story about this one because I put it because it's a classic in terms I do two things, cityscapes and landscapes, and this is a classic cityscapes of Hong Kong. But a few years ago, I wrote a book. I wanted to give it to you. I can show to you my copy because I gave away all my copies.
Good for you. Well done.
So
no, it's okay.
But I will show it to you. Okay. I can talk a little bit later about the book.
Okay.
So I did this book, and I was trying to find a publisher, and I couldn't find a publisher in Hong Kong because in Hong Kong I found basically printers.
Right.
You pay me a certain amount of money, and I give you a bunch of books, and I wouldn't know what to do with the books other than giving to friends, etc. But then I found an American publisher called Goff Books out of San Francisco. And I wrote them, and they went quiet. And then they reappear a few months later, say, hey, the chief editor Mr. Goff, by the way, is in Hong Kong. He wants to meet you.
Nice.
So the guy came here, super nice guy, Gordon Goff, and he played my guitar much better than I will ever be able to. And we had a good conversation. And then he said, hey, I love your works. This is the type of paintings I would like to hang in my house,
Nice.
and we can do a book, and we'll do this and that. And it was still very expensive.
Yeah.
But what I liked is that they would give me a bunch of books, but they would also print another bigger bunch of books that they would distribute.
Right.
So they would manage.
Yeah.
And I like that.
That's
forward.
great.
This is what you want, right?
Yeah.
And the guy say, how about we lower your fee and you give me one painting? And I said, sure. And he said, hey, let me call the boss, my wife, and see what she likes.
Okay.
And she liked that one.
Okay.
So the one went to San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
And thanks to this specific painting, I managed also to have a book published
Wicked.
by Golf Books.
Happy accident. That's fantastic. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.